Cold Soul by Ann Butler.
Laverne couldn't stop staring at Charmaine, her 3-month-old daughter. Charmaine stared back at her with eyes which were way too alert. Laverne smiled down and stroked the baby's soft, chubby cheek with the back of her hand. "You're going to be something special," she said. "Just look at you. You know who I am, don't you? Don't you? Yes, you do. Yes, you do." She fell into that way of speaking that nearly all parents have with new babies. Charmaine blinked back at her and pursed her lips. "But come and look at this, Andre," she called out to Charmaine's father, who had just come into the room. Andre came over and stooped down so he was eye level with his gorgeous lady and his even more gorgeous daughter. "Did she spit up on you again?" Laverne ignored his joke. "Look at her," she said. "Just look at her. Look at her. She's trying to look at you." Sure enough, this 3-month-old was actually trying to turn her head towards the sound of her father's voice. When that failed, she tried to find him with her eyes. Andre frowned, even though he was still smiling. He stroked a hand over the baby's head, and then he reached for her and stood to cradle her against his chest. He started crooning at her, "Daddy's here, Daddy's here," over and over again. And then he sung, "Hush-a-bye, baby." Charmaine stared, eyes wide. She gurgled and watched while her dad continued to sing. Cha-Cha, the nickname her family took to using, continued to surprise her parents and grandparents over the next few months. She was able to sit up unassisted before she was 6 months old. She was actually standing at 6 months and taking steps unassisted at 8 months. True, Laverne and Andre were doting parents, and following all the health guidelines did all the exercises to help Cha-Cha's physical development. They were pleased that their attention to their daughter's development was showing such great results. Listening via the baby monitor, the voices she made from her cot soon started to sound like real words, and Laverne and Andre were convinced she was a genius. The disquiet began a few months after Cha-Cha started infant school. She didn't like to play with the toys available to her. She was unkind to her peers who were not as developed as she was. Gradually, many children just stopped talking to her. Her teachers were ill-equipped to deal with her and to keep her engaged through the school day. She asked questions that were strange coming from a 4-year-old. Questions like, "How many times you?" When she was asked to explain, she stared but didn't answer. And, "What are you?" "I am a boy. I'm your teacher," her teacher said. "But what are you?" Again, when she was asked to explain, she stared but didn't answer. Her teachers met Laverne and Andre and told them that they were having trouble communicating with Charmaine. That Charmaine was having trouble communicating with her peers, and that they needed to have Charmaine assessed. They took Charmaine home. They sat on their sofa with Charmaine sitting between them. "Cha-Cha," Andre started. "Charmaine, not Cha-Cha." The parents exchanged a look. "Cha-Cha is a baby. I'm Charmaine. Okay, Charmaine. What do you mean when you say... Andre stopped and looked at Laverne. Laverne nodded for him to continue. Andre took one of Charmaine's small hands and gently pulled her over to sit on his lap while ensuring that she was facing her mother. Charmaine settled and stared at him. She had a strangely adult look about her. Her expression was not a child's expression, and Andre had his first moment of fear. He pushed it down, dismissing it. This was his beloved daughter after all. They had nothing to fear. It's just that she was seeing much earlier than predicted. He stroked a hand down her head, the way he'd been soothing her since she was an infant. "Do you want to ask us something?" he said to Charmaine. Charmaine blinked up at him, then looked at her mother. She looked back at her father and asked,
"How many times you?"
Laverne gasped. "I don't remember," Andre said. "How many times you, sweetheart?" She looked down at her right hand and counted fingers.
3.
She said. "When did you know?" Andre asked her.
"Know what, Dad?"
Andre smiled. She was still just a child after all. He asked her a different question. "What was your first thing?"
"Thing?"
She frowned as she thought about the question.
"Oh, I made you call me Cha-Cha. But I don't like it now."
Laverne gasped again, and Andre burst out laughing. Charmaine smiled too. Then she looked at her mum.
"Mummy, what are we?"
"We are what we do not talk about, sweetheart." Andre chimed in. "We can do things, special things, but we have to be careful. Do you understand?"
"Careful?"
Charmaine asked. "People who are not us or your grandpies must not know."
"But when children talk to me when I don't want them to, can I still make them stop? I can, can't I?"
Andre and Laverne looked at each other, both feeling a chill. Laverne asked her what she meant by making them stop. Charmaine told her that she wasn't sure how she did it, but she was able to stop the kids she didn't like from talking to her. "Charmaine, darling, you mustn't do that. It's not allowed." Charmaine stared at her mother, her 4-year-old features looking much, much older and very scary indeed.
"Not allowed? Who can stop it?"
Seven-year-old Charmaine sat on the bed in the spare room at her dad's parents' home. She'd been staying with them since her parents' tragic accident on the M25, which also killed her maternal grandparents. Charmaine was the only survivor. She'd walked away without a scratch. They had been on their way to a retreat. Following another disturbing incident at her school, the decision had been made that keeping Charmaine's powers in check required a special level of intervention. Charmaine didn't know what that meant, and she wasn't going to wait to find out. Her mum, dad, and her mum's parents were weak. They had the power, but were so afraid of being found out. The days of witches being burnt at the stake and all the other tortures her community have suffered, and which lives in the collective memory of all witches, young and old, well, that's all history. The old soul that lived in Charmaine's young body was not going to be constrained by their fear. On the way to the retreat, which was set somewhere in deepest Sussex, their people carrier hit the barrier and flipped. Emergency services and local news reports talked about the miracle of her survival. The knowledge of Charmaine's powers died in the wreck. She would live with her grandparents, moulding their behaviour to suit her needs until she was old enough to strike out as an adult. They were not like her or her parents. They were oblivious. They had no idea of her powers. They brought her back to theirs after the funeral, prepared her a light lunch, and told her to rest for a while. Their faces were wreathed in sadness. She lay down and listened to them moving about downstairs, and so she drifted off to sleep. When she woke up, everything was in darkness. She tried to sit up, but couldn't move her arms or legs. She tried to speak and found that she couldn't do that either. Her heart started racing. "You're awake. Good." It was her grandmother's voice. "I'm addressing the soul that is not my granddaughter. Let me tell you what's happening." Her words triggered a thought in Charmaine's mind. "Yes, we know you're there. We know what you can do. We know what you have done. That's why we've ensured you can't see, speak, or move. Whoever you are who has come back in our grandchild, you will be contained here. You will do no more harm. This is the place where her parents had intended you to be. But considering what you did to them, and to the others who tried to teach and mentor you, we have taken extra steps. You have been spellbound. As long as the spell holds, and there are enough of us to ensure that it does, you can do no harm." The old soul masquerading as Charmaine raged silently. This was the third time she'd been thwarted. These weaklings who were scared of power kept getting the better of her. But she'd be back. She would. And next time, her fourth time, would be a charm.
You have just listened to The Old Soul. The story was written and narrated by Ann Butler. Sound effects are by Free Sound and provided by Pixabay. Hit like and subscribe for notification of new episodes. Do feel free to share this and other episodes from the Book Griffin podcast, but note, this story should not be adapted or broadcast without written permission from a member of the Book Griffin team.